Hello, this is the first of two videos I'm putting up on TableTop Day, my two TableTop Day videos about the game that I am designing, and this is the game here that I'm designing. The other video is a playthrough of the game with a couple of friends, Richard and Ian, who you'll see on there, and David, who was on the camera. There's all the people I could get. I wanted it. It's not great quality. Obviously, I had to just set it up in the dining room as best I could. Didn't have time to organise something better than that. But I might do a slightly better one if there's interest in seeing that. I might try and do it again. So this is the game. It's largely components that I made. Obviously the board, you saw very briefly in one of my other videos. This was just drawn, just black and white, just drawn. It's not that exciting. A lot of the components I've made as well, so it's full of cardboard components, and it's got cards, just paper cards. And all these cards, they're just blank cards that I bought off eBay that I wrote all over. You'll notice there's a number of things in here that are stolen from other sources. So the playing pieces are from Pandemic, and then you've got a gene stealer there, being an alien monster, and a few other bits and pieces. So yeah, it's very sort of hodgepodged, homemade affair at the moment. Fire tokens are also stolen from Warhammer. The game is a cooperative game. I'm a big fan of cooperative games. I like stuff like Pandemic and things like that. I've got pieces from Pandemic here. It's based, I guess, inspired by Pandemic and another game, Red November, which is a game where you're gnomes on a submarine. And that sort of disaster management game, where the players are the crew of the spaceship, and they've got to fix their hyperdrive so that they can pilot back to their homeworld. And the ship is falling to pieces, and aliens are invading, and just things like that. So they've got to try and manage control of the ship so it doesn't blow up whilst fixing the engines and piloting away. The game is currently called Trouble on the Tempest. I don't know if that will stick. The ship's just called the Tempest. It's a time machine ship, and it's called the Tempest because that's time in Latin. That seems about as imaginative as I could get at the time. But yeah, that's currently the title. The ship has standard areas, so it's got fuel cells, hyperdrive, maintenance, engineering, security room, life support. Then you have the bridge at the front of the ship, which is the pilot's chair, weapons, shields, time drive, damage report, and security consoles, which all have their own functions. Disasters never directly appear on the bridge. Disasters can appear on the bridge through various different means, but they never directly, the bridge never directly catches fire. So the bridge is probably the safest place on the ship, but it's also one of the most useless places because you can't fix the ship from there. But they do have a number of functions that you can do. So the weapons, obviously, you can attack the external threats, and putting the shields up is usually a good first move, just because it allows you to abandon the bridge for a bit while the shields are up. When something starts attacking, you can then run back and worry about it later. The game is played over a number of rounds, and each round is split into 3 phases. Phase 1 is the player's phase, where the players get to move about the ship, pick up equipment, which is usually found in these rooms. It's these little paper pieces that I've made. Fire extinguishers here, rifles in the security room, space suits over there. Useful equipment that they need to pick up and then use it, obviously, to fix parts of the ship, and then to put out fires. So, for example, they can't let the fuel cells remain on fire for too long because they'll explode. And they've got to avoid enemies or take down enemies. And they can lock and unlock doors and things like that. So the player's phase. Once the player's phase is done, you do the end of round phase. So in the end of round, fires cause damage if they're left unchecked. Fires start to do extra damage, and a number of other end of round effects happen that are all sort of listed depending on what's damaged and what's on the board. So obviously the alien during the end of round will do stuff, will run about and try and attack people. And that's the end of round phase. Then finally comes the third phase, is the disaster phase. In the disaster phase, they have to draw one of these minor disaster cards, which can be quite nasty. They tend to put fires and burst piping on the board, and they cause doors malfunctions, things like that. Tend to do those sorts of stuff. And then they roll a dice, and if they roll a die and they get equal to or less than the number of players currently alive, they also have to draw a major disaster. And the major disasters are the nasty ones. They're the things that put the alien creatures on the board, or cause entire sections of the ship to explode. Or we've got all these monsters here as well, and we've got pirates invading the ship and things like that. So the major disasters, they're the nasty ones. Yeah, they cause massive door malfunctions and electrical storms and meteor showers, You can be attacked from external threats as well. There can be alien ships that come in and attack. And stuff like that. So they're the really nasty ones. But you roll a dice to see if they actually get drawn. So they might not get drawn for a while. But the more players you have, because you're rolling equal to or less than the number of characters still alive, the more players you have, the more likely you are to draw them. Which is kind of a balancing act we had to figure out. Because you couldn't just draw the same number of major disasters every time there was a... regardless of the number of players, if you're only playing with 2 people, you can't be drawing a major disaster every round. That's crazy. Although, luck of the dice, you might end up doing that anyway. The game is extremely hard. The fires and the creatures and all the problems that happen, everything that, the ship literally falls to pieces very quickly, and the players cannot handle it. It's basically, well, it's not impossible, but it's more or less impossible to beat in one go. But luckily for the players, the ship is a time machine. This is the unique selling point of this game, I guess. They can activate here on the bridge the time drive. When the time drive gets activated, the game resets. The players go back to the beginning of the game. So you clear off all the fires and creatures and things. Clear the board back to its starting position. And you reset the disaster cards. So the disaster cards go in order onto their discard pile. And then they go straight back on top of the disaster decks. So that the players know what's going to happen. The exact same thing that happened the first time they played is going to happen in the same order, more or less. The major disasters might come up slightly differently because you're rolling the dice. But they know what sort of thing's going to happen. And they can preempt some of it, so they can lock the alien in its room, in whichever room it appears in. They could purposefully flood a couple of rooms using the pump controls, cause the pipes to burst. They could be ready and waiting, standing somewhere to fix something, to fix a problem before it happens, if they can remember what order things happen in. And that's kind of the only way to proceed. You have to do a couple of time jumps at least, really. We have played it once or twice where they managed to sneak through without doing any at all. But that was, again, it's a lot of luck of the cards. But yeah, odds are you're going to have to do a few time jumps back to the beginning of the game and set yourself. So you go out and set yourself up to win by fixing the hyperdrive. Time jump back and then do it because the thing's getting out of control. And the advice I give in the little rules I wrote up, is that even if things are going well, you probably still want to time jump. Because if you've drawn a bunch of cards, that 5 or 6 cards, 5 rounds, or that's 5 or 6 rounds, in a row that you can handle, that's nice. You want to jump back and you want to repeat those cards as much as possible. You don't want to risk the next card destroying you. But yeah, that's the gimmick of the game. The problem is every time they do a time jump, they have to draw a time warp card. And the time warp deck is finite. It'll be drawn at the beginning. You deal it at the beginning. A pack of 6 cards. And in the bottom half of those cards is the Lost in the Void card, which automatically ends the game. So the more time jumping they do, the more dangerous it becomes. And the time warp cards have quite nasty effects on them. Like we have something that's easily explainable. Reset the players back to their starting positions with their starting equipment. So that means basically when the time warp jump happened, the players will reset as well, so they lose all their stuff, lose all the progress they've made essentially. And if you say vanish, a player blinks out of existence to the next time jump. So yeah, there's a few things like that. There's a few quirky effects in there. But yeah, like I say, you can't get by without doing them. Major disasters will also often put extra rules into play. So the game is as it stands. The players move about, they can put out fires, they can fix pipes, they can do various other things. But when the major disasters happen, extra sheets, there'll be these extra sheets included in the game, cardboard ones there will be. And they will put the extra rules in. So for example, the alien creature. Once the alien creature's in play, it's got rules for how to kill him and how he moves about and attacks people. So the rules will be changing. They won't be changing constantly. They'll just be adding more rules. So the game is relatively complex. There's a lot of little bits to it, but once you kind of get into the routine, I think the first time people play, it's quite whoa. But once you get used to the routine of how everything works, all you've got to really remember is to check the extra rules that come into play once you understand how the board works. And there's quite a lot of these things. Pirates and security malfunction and the soldiers and space disease. Trying to keep it relatively comical or relatively light-hearted, so things tend to be worded a bit in a silly way. And there's the rule in the rulebook that states that if something gets forgotten, or if something needs to be redone, or if you need to if you did something slightly wrong and you need to redo your turn or whatever, that's just a time paradox. Just do it. Don't stress about it. Don't cheat, but don't stress about saying, oh, we shouldn't have done that in that order. We meant to do it the other way around. Just fix it. Just pretend that just time paradox and reset whatever you were trying to do. So at the start of the game, the board will be clear. It won't have all this stuff on it, not all these monsters and things. The players will pick a character. I created a bunch of characters. 9, I think, I made. Here, I've made more than 9, but some of them, I just made some weird ones for fun. So they pick a character, these like the captain and the droid and the security officer and things like that, pilot, who all have their own special powers. A lot of them play quite differently to each other. It's important to utilise those powers. I just think it's more interesting to have that. We did play it, when the first few times we played it, everyone was the same. And that's fine, it worked fine. But it's more interesting to have a character. I think we like having that. I like having a character. I like the more role-playing element to something like Arkham Horror or whatever. I like having a character that can do things that other players can't do. Trying to get the balancing act on those is, at the moment, though, that's quite tricky. So once everyone's got characters, they draw a hyperdrive disaster, which is the initial problem, which is basically the problem they have to solve. So it might be that the hyperdrive is actually on fire. They've got to fix that. Or it's just got loads of damage on it, or the electrical fault has spread across the board, so nothing's working. It'll be something along those lines that sets up the problem that they have to fix to win the game. Once that problem's fixed, a player just has to pilot the ship away, or activate the hyperdrive, and they will launch it back to the home world or spaceship or wherever they're going. That's about the size of it. So it's the it's the time travel mechanic that I'm hoping is interesting and grabs attention. I'm going to hopefully be taking a better prototype than this. I'm going to get a board printed up, probably a few other components as well. And a lot of these have been rewritten. I just haven't had a chance to change them yet. I need to rewrite some of these cards, for example. And these will need printing off again. But yeah, hopefully we'll get a better quality board and a few unique components, and then I'll be taking it to the expo at the end of May, 1st of June, I think the time it is, because they do a play testing section. I'll put a link up to that. And so they have a play testing area where they were testing new games, and this bad boy down here. I think I've covered everything. Like I say, the other video going up will be a playthrough of this. It's not brilliantly shot. It's going to be quite long, that video, so I don't blame you if you can't get all the way through it. I cut it down to its more interesting parts. But we played the game twice. First time went really quickly and we won. Second time took a lot longer, and that might be spoilers. So we played the game twice, and they both went quite differently. And like I said, it'll be quite a long video, so I don't blame you if you can't get through it. But that will go up as well. Probably go up. These videos will probably go up Friday night. I'm working all day Saturday, unfortunately, so I can't sort of monitor it and keep it up. So it'll probably go up really late on Friday, and then just tweet about it and stuff during the day, sneaky, on my phone whilst I'm at work. And that's about that. So hopefully that was interesting. Hopefully you like the look of this game. I will try and get the playthrough that's going to go up now is a bit choppy, but I'll try and get a better playthrough up in the future, and maybe I'll do some other board game reviews and things, because I'm a bit of a collector. Yes, I'm aware that I don't paint my miniatures. I need to get into painting. I'd like to paint my miniatures. I really would. I just don't get around to it. So that's that. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found that interesting. I hope you watched the playthrough video, and hope that's interesting as well. And that is Trouble on the Tempest. That's the game that I am designing. The first game I'm designing. I have other ideas. But yes, that's that. Thank you for watching. I've been Christian. This has been my game, and you've been you. The end. This guy here is trying to break into the bridge, but the door's locked. Shoot the door! Oh, his back fell off. Broke him.